MMA is a blowing up sport. Last week, 144-10 was the vote out of the State House. It's sanctioned. It's coming. Dana White's already saying that possibly looking at Fenway. How excited are you about this?
It's awesome. I mean, it is awesome. It's about time, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely it is. It is.
Absolutely. The state's got to get with it.
And they're talking about huge revenues that this state will reap as far as booking just one single UFC event here, the amount of money that it would reap. I'm very involved with other promotions, Full Force, CFX, WEC, WCF. And what are your thoughts about these promotions? And now that it's going to be sanctioned, there's going to be some rules that are going to have to be followed. Like they can't have fights on the same night from two different promotions, so it's going to be spread out. Do you see guys maybe moving to other promotions, or do you think they're going to be loyal and try to stick and make it better?
You know, honestly, I think most people go where the money is. I hate to say it, but I know a lot of good guys and a lot of good places that the minute they move up a little bit, they're off. So I think people go where the money is. I mean, and there's a lot. The different places in Massachusetts. I think some of them are more professional than others. I tend, because I'm also a cornerman for a lot of our fighters, and some of the shows I go to, they're really professional. Some I go to, and I'm like, man, I wouldn't want to fight in this. I'm like, what the hell am I doing here?
I know exactly what you're talking about because I've been to several, and I've said it myself about some promotions. There's just some things that are done right and some things that are done wrong, and it does speak volumes.
And when it's done wrong, the sport looks ugly.
You're right.
Am I right? Correct. When it's done wrong, you leave those fights thinking, man, that was ugly.
Right. You're right. Who was your inspiration to get into MMA?
Well, actually, I got into a little trouble, and my friends were doing jiu-jitsu, and I was like, screw it, I'm going to try it, and I really liked it, and I lived with a couple guys from the dungeon that, I was always holding the mitts, and, I was there, and they would just take fights, and they'd be, one of them was living with me, and he would just take fights, and it was nothing. He'd just go in there, and whatever happened. He'd be home eating spaghetti and cupcakes that night, and I'd be thinking, I got to try this. You know what I'm saying? He just made it look easy. My friend Joey Lunn from the dungeon, he's also on the card. He's also on the card this Saturday, and I'm good friends with Mike Gresh and John Burke. I used to ask John Burke, you think I could take a fight, and John would say, I don't think you're ready, and John, if you're not ready or you're not in shape, or John will never let you fight. So there's a lot of guys that come in that want to fight, and John will be like, forget it. So he's one of those type of guys, like, he's got to know you can get in there and look good. You're decent,
Right. Mike Gresh, Cape Cod Fighting Alliance.
Oh, yeah.
Good fighter. Good fighter. Yeah. Good mention there.
Well, Jeff, what other inspirations do you have, like, aside, maybe boxers, things like that?
Marvelous Marvin Hagler. My all-time favorite, without a doubt. I'm 38 years old, and I grew up watching those Marvin Hagler fights, and I loved him. He was my father. Every time he fought, we'd be watching him. And I'm a huge boxing fan. So, I really. But he was my all-time favorite, no question.
Jeff, with that said, are you surprised now, because a lot of that had to do with the boxing commission and stuff of MMA finally getting in here, and you do see a lot of the boxers now fighting in MMA and stuff like that, and now you're seeing wrestlers and all kinds. So how do you prepare for different people like that? You yourself, jiu-jitsu and fighter and all that.
Well, the first kid I fought, James Bean, he was like just a brawler, and he hit me so hard in the first round, I didn't know where I was for like two straight rounds. And I'll tell you what, with him, I had to grapple him. I ended up choking him out in the second round, but he was a tough dude. He hit like a truck. So I kind of had to weather that storm, and it wasn't too fun, I can tell you that much. And, at the dungeon, we have guys that some of them are great at Muay Thai, and some are just great at Jiu-Jitsu. So you kind of get to work with all of them. And, Renee's a world champion. Renee's a four-time world champion under Fajon. So, he's got a lot of pointers, and just there's so many Jimmy Oliver. There's guys in there that don't fight that are incredible, but they don't get in the ring, but they're incredible. I mean, if they fought, they kill people, you know. So there's just so many people. If you're fighting, someone's fighting a brawler, boom, we have the guys to work with that. Fighting a jiu-jitsu guy, we got the crew to work with that. So it's a pretty well-rounded group in there.
Jeff, what do you think? Does this obviously this as getting a little back to what Keith was saying? Obviously, you know, you mentioned the money thing as far as going, but obviously this for different gyms and stuff and associations like yourself at Reality, and you mentioned Mike. Mike's also the
Max Training.
Max Training.
Mike Varner.
Right, and obviously this you know, turns up the heat a little for you guys, huh? As far as performance and stuff. I mean, competition-wise, so that has to be a great thing.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, I caught most of that question, and you know, I used to be the guy in the crowd that would watch fights, and I'd be thinking, why didn't he do this? Why didn't he do that? When you get in that ring, it's a whole. You guys know it's a whole other animal.
It is.
And no matter who you fight, they're going to be from a great school. South Shore, awesome guys, awesome team. I mean, you're gonna fight guys that are in great shape. Everyone's well-rounded, and you know, I think with what you guys were saying earlier with the UFC and stuff coming in Massachusetts, and I think the sport's just crazy now. I mean, we got 16, 17-year-olds in the dungeon that are unbelievable. I mean, wait till they become 18, 19, 20 years old. They're going to kill people.
Actually, my son's 13, and he's out at Joe Lozon School. He's been there for the last 5 months, and everybody keeps telling me this. My son is a beast, and they think he's a natural at jiu-jitsu. So he's going to be
there. You go. I mean, picture your son when he's 23. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's the sport just. The way it evolves, it's crazy. I mean, John Burke's son at the dungeon, Anthony Burke, I mean, this kid's going to be a monster. He's like 14 right now, and it's insane how this. I wouldn't want to be the guy fighting him when he becomes 18, I'll tell you that much.
Jeff, you know, one of the things, too, you know, I've noticed we've interviewed different people from the different fight groups and stuff like that, and UFC and all that, and you're all very devoted. And there's a lot of really touching stories of how people got in and stuff. A fireman from Cape Cod that's a fighter. I can't remember his name right now. But, you know, different stories and the devotion. How do you think the public will be? I mean, obviously MMA is the most growing sport. What kind of an impact do you think it will have here in New England now that it's going to be part of that? Do you think that the crowd the people have a better understanding of MMA, just not being a bunch of guys beating the hell out of each other, that it's actually is a skilled sport?
Guys, I play in a band for a living, and I can't tell you how many girls and guys know a lot about. It's amazing how much they know about MMA, and it's amazing. I mean, people legitimately watch it, and it's amazing. Like, just girls in the bar will come up, and I was watching the fight the other night. They know the names, the fighters, the moves. It's crazy. You know, it's amazing how much people love it. It's just amazing. You know what I mean? And into it. I mean, a lot of people are into it more than I am, and I'm doing it.
I think one of the things that
it's insane, you know.
It is.
I think one of the things that does that is because, one, Dana White is from Massachusetts, so he's been filtering in all this stuff. Two, we've had a lot of guys out of New England. You've got Joe Lozon, you got Kenny